Hello, everyone's Forest Focus. Disappointment for Nottingham Forest as they're knocked out of the Carabao Cups and Newcastle on penalties. A miserable start to the evening, a miserable end to the evening, but lots of encouragement in between, which we'll discuss in full, as well as the latest transfer news in the company of Paul Morley. First of all, Paul, good to have you with us. How are you?
Very good, Matt. Very good. Feeling very encouraged after what I've seen tonight. So looking forward to having a chat.
Yeah, looking forward to it as well. Looking forward to it. Second guest is Simon Fotheringham. Fothers, how are you?
Yeah, very well, thanks, Matt. Disappointed at the end, and like you say, with the first 18 seconds, but other than that, so much to be positive about.
Yeah, kick us off, Fothers. Just general thoughts on the performance, what you liked. What you didn't like is kind of obvious, but everything else felt pretty good to me.
Yeah, I thought we were great tonight. I thought to a man, pretty much everyone throughout the test. Let's take the penalty shootout and the penalty misses at the end out of it, and just look at the 90 minutes. And I think looking through the starting 11, I think everybody impressed. You know, we know what a lot of them bring to the team, the likes of Omobamidele and Bolly, Dominguez, etc. But I thought the new lads. Yes, it's all positive, isn't it?
What about you, Paul, just in general?
Yeah, I think so. Two things. I think when the tie first got drawn, I know you were a bit sort of bit of a naff draw, and I always thought actually it's a really good opportunity for us to hopefully do what we did and get some of the squad players involved and give them a chance to show what they can do. And as Father said, particularly against a really strong Newcastle side. I mean, forget what happened in the last 5 minutes of penalties. I mean, that can happen to anybody. Roberto Baggio, one of the best players of all time, did what Taiwo did, didn't he? So, I think we forgive him for that. But what happened in the 90 minutes, I thought, again, probably apart from getting caught cold in the first 20 seconds, we were fantastic. And it was a really, really good validation, I think, of the fact that, what we'd all hoped is that these signings are going to make us a really strong squad. And I think, I'm not necessarily suggesting that, the likes of Jota or Sosa are going to start at the weekend, but what it really proved to us is that the serious options off the bench we've got now, and that against that team to prove that tonight was a really, really good exercise. And I think every Forest fan who's watching that should be really proud and really excited about what's to come from what they've seen tonight.
I suppose the headline sort of at the end, Fothers, is Taiwo's penalty. He's getting stick in the comments saying he played badly. I have to disagree. I thought that 70 minutes, he looked, as you would expect, rusty in terms of a lack of minutes, but he didn't look physically shot. I liked what I saw from him. I think he tired. I would have taken him off because I thought he should have come off. But otherwise, I thought there was lots to like, and the penalty itself was obviously awful. I hope it doesn't knock him and he doesn't feel down, about it, and his teammates rally around him.
Yeah, I think from watching him tonight, he's clearly not match fit. I mean, I think it was commented that he's not started a game since February, and you could tell that, couldn't you? And you've got to give him a bit of slack. And when you look at the Newcastle back four that he came up against as well, it was always going to be tough for him, wasn't it? But I totally agree with you. I'd have taken him off. Chris Wood was there on the bench. And I think the last 20-25 minutes with Woody would have been the right thing to do. But it's easy to say that after the event, isn't it? If he strolls up, puts that penalty in, everybody's quite happy, aren't they? And unfortunately, it wasn't to be tonight. But I think we saw a little bit of the old Taiwo, and I think we're still hopeful, aren't we? We're still all hopeful that we're going to get a striker across the line before 11 o'clock on Friday night. But if we don't, then we're going to need him, aren't we?
Yeah, we are. I think we saw signs. I don't think he's back anywhere near his absolute peak of his powers, but I saw encouraging signs. There's 360 people watching. If you're one of about 180 who disagreed with what we said about Taiwo, hit like. And if you agree, hit like as well. That would be a big help. Let's rewind back to the start then, Paul. Even before kickoff, team selection was really interesting. I thought we were up against it as soon as I saw the team, but perversely, I liked the team as well. What did you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think what it said to me was that tonight was, and the results never inconsequential. You always want to try and win a game of football, but you could argue almost that the result was a little bit secondary, and tonight was a bit more about the bigger picture. And as I said before, it's about getting these new guys that we brought in. I think probably we all knew that Moreno had Premier League quality, but the other guys, Moreira, Miguel in goal, and the two wide guys, this is the first time we've seen them at this level against that kind of opposition. And as much as, you watch YouTube highlights and think, oh, these guys are going to fit in great, we probably all were kind of watching them with a bit of fingers crossed, thinking I hope that they can make the step up, and they absolutely, to a man, I think all four of those guys showed us that they do have what it takes to compete at this level, which, as I said before, gives me real sort of optimism and confidence that we've got a squad now with depth that, if we get injuries, you'd feel pretty comfortable with either of those players coming in to the team. If so if we lost to Langer or Hudson-Odoi, take your pick out of Jota and Sosa to come in and play wide. Well, I thought actually Jota played sort of the number 10 role quite a bit. He drifted in field quite a lot tonight, didn't he? And was quite effective there. So again, that showed his versatility. I think team selection wise, like you, I was surprised, but also pleasantly surprised. I thought I was really looking forward to seeing what they could do, and I say really enthused and come away feeling really happy with what I saw.
Talk amongst yourselves about the goal, chaps. My 8-year-old son is now stood looking at me, who I thought was asleep. So I'm going to have to go put him back to bed. Talk to us. Fathers, kick us off. Who's to blame? What went wrong? And I'll be back as soon as I can.
Oh, thanks for leaving me with that one, Matt. I think we got caught cold, didn't we, Paul? I think we clearly had a plan with all the players on the right hand side, and we were playing it long, probably targeting the young fullback for Newcastle, and I think they got woken up to how quick a side as good as Newcastle can be on the break, and that was the bit that caught us out a little bit. I think Zach Abbott went in when he perhaps should have stood off a little bit, but the quality of Newcastle going forward and the speed in which they made that break, everybody's going to struggle against that, aren't they? And I think because it was straight from the kickoff, we had a few players caught out of position. And then a couple of minutes later, exactly the same thing happened again. And thankfully, Miguel made a great save literally in the 3rd minute. I can't remember who it was from Tonali.
Yeah.
We could have been 2-0 down after 3 minutes, but I thought after that, we settled into it really, really well.
I didn't hear any of that, obviously, so I'm interested to hear your take, Paul, and then I'll see if I disagree with you and maybe Fathers.
Yeah, I thought the goal, actually, funnily enough, was had a lot of hallmarks of a couple of the goals that we scored against them last year. Quick on the transition, catching them out in behind. I think Elanga at home, wasn't it? And then Elanga put Wood in when we were away from home. So that sort of classic counter-attack, winning the ball in transition, other team high up the field and in behind the defence on the halfway line was kind of all the hallmarks of the things that we're good at. So we kind of got sort of caught out of our own game a little bit. But yeah, I think there was obviously a few comments on Sky about Miguel, and my first instinct, I was sort of, as I was watching it, I was half sort of putting the kids' dinner out and I sort of caught, watching it from afar, and I thought, well, could the keeper have done better? And this was the situation that we all sort of questioned, wasn't it, before? What's he going to be like with low shots close to his body? Is he going to be able to get down to them? And he obviously got down to it. Could he have parried it away a little bit differently? Possibly. I suppose the question I was asking myself was, had that have been Turner or Vlachodimos, would we have been, being critical? Look, I think, like you say, Fathers, he absolutely redeemed himself a couple of minutes later with a save from Tonali, and for the rest of the game, and the penalty save as well showed what you can do, what value you can add in that area. So for me, I think out of all the people that started the game who came into the team, I think Moreno as well probably put in a really good shift to start at the weekend. I thought Miguel has given Nuno a really big headache. I thought he was pretty good tonight.
Yeah, I do want to come on to that. I agree. I mean, I don't blame him for the goal. I think it, like you say, it was close to his body, and he sort of can't help being 6'8". But I thought he was in an awkward position, and he pushed it out, and it looks bad because it fell straight to their striker. So I was fine with it. I think poor Zach Abbott made a rick there, and he's gone in to press the ball when he didn't need to, and it's cost us a goal. And he probably did have a difficult night at times. But I think it'll do him the power of good, and I've got massive high hopes for him. But yeah, I would say that goal was on him on this occasion. But loads of promise from him. Let's stick on Miguel actually and Moreno quickly. Would you start Miguel or Sells v Wolves, Fathers?
Um, yeah, I've never been. I'm probably going to get slated for this, but I've never been a big fan of Matt Sells, and I think when we were in the running for Ramsdale, I was all over that, and I thought, yeah, let's do it. Let's improve that position. Not having seen Miguel at all until tonight, apart from the second half against Villarreal the other night at the City Ground in the pre-season friendly, where he didn't have much to do. It was a bit of a kick around, wasn't it? I was very, very impressed tonight. I thought he possibly could have done a bit better for the goal. Isak's played it across him, so he's got to palm it that way. Maybe there should have been one of our defenders there to clear it up. But I'd probably go with Sells on Saturday. But what I would do is be much more confident if Miguel needs to come on than I was before tonight.
What about you, Paul? It's a marginal decision. What about you?
It really is, isn't it? I mean, Sells hasn't done anything wrong so far this season. I thought, I was at Southampton. I've been to both games this season. At Southampton, he did everything that he needed to do. I thought against Bournemouth towards the end, he looked a little bit flappy. One or two crosses. I think I've always said that I think Miguel has been bought as a long-term number one, whether that takes 12 months, whether it takes 12 weeks or, 2 games as we're in now. I think ultimately he'll end up with a shirt. I think, again, I trust Nuno implicitly, given that he was a keeper, to make the right call on that. So he's far more better qualified than I am to say that when Miguel should come in. Like Father said, I'd be very comfortable with either starting on Saturday. I don't think Sells has done anything wrong, but I think if he decides that Miguel's shown enough, then I'll be equally happy.
Yeah, if I was push come to shove right now, I would still start Sells, but only because he kept a clean sheet in his last game. I don't think he's done anything particularly wrong. But if we see Miguel in future and he plays like that again, then I think he looks a really good long-term option. So I wouldn't be phased at all if he started for Wolves, but I just probably think the way Nuno seems to pick his teams, I think he'd probably pick Sells. He seems to have some faith in him, I would say.
Just the one counter I'd say to that is we probably had this same conversation before Saturday about Bolly and Milenkovic, didn't we? In that Bolly did really well against Bournemouth, but he Milenkovic, as soon as he's available, he threw him in and he's like, right, you're my man. So that selection maybe gives me not optimism, because I think that's the wrong word, but gives me an inclination that Miguel's time is not too far away.
A few people commenting on his kicking and his passing out. I think that is a weakness, and that is an area to develop. Like Sells' passing and distribution is better, and that is a facet. Obviously, we saw it with Matt Turner. But, other areas of his game fell apart as well. But yeah, I think that might give Sells an edge, the way that Nuno might want us to play. You're nodding along, Fothers, you think so?
Yeah, I think so. And like I just said there, I think Sells is okay, and he's not done anything wrong. As the comments keep coming, there, kept a clean sheet in the last game. For me, it's for him to lose, but when you see Miguel playing like he did tonight, then he's got to be on his toes, otherwise he'll be out of the team. And I feel that for a lot of positions as well, having watched that tonight, to be honest.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Just on goalkeepers as well. Southampton look like they're signing Ramsdale. Wolves look like they're signing Johnson, which puts it to bed. There's a rumour I see from the Sun saying that we're interested in the Bournemouth keeper Neto, and I don't dismiss it. Normally you would, but I think there might be something in it. I hope it's not true, to be honest, because those Bournemouth fans don't seem to rate him. It sounds like they spent a summer trying to replace him. And I think he got dropped at the end of last season for Travers. I don't know if he was injured. I'll stand corrected on that. But just either of you chaps, would either of you welcome Neto, or would you stick with what we have if there is anything in that?
No, I mean, I think when you go
sorry,
first, I'm going to say I haven't seen him against us the other week. I mean, he made a good save, didn't he, from Bolly, from that header from the corner. Probably could and should have done better with Yates' shot that Wood followed in. So, yeah, I didn't see anything. I mean, again, limited on to that particular match, but didn't see anything from him that makes me think he'd be a massive upgrade on what we've already got. I'm surprised that if Ramsdale ends up at Southampton, I'd be surprised at his, I guess, I don't know, is that lack of ambition from him to go somewhere like that?
He's a
Obviously gonna
Saints
be
fan,
busy.
isn't he? They are, but I
Right,
don't.
okay, fair enough,
But they're
didn't realise.
buying him. He's not going on loan. I think they're buying him for 25 million. I'm surprised that he's going there. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be busy. He's going to obviously got a lot of showcase his skills. But yeah, that surprises me. But yeah, if that's what he chooses, that's what he chooses.
I saw. There's nothing. I've not heard this at all, but obviously we've been in for this player as well. Well, Jose Sarr would be available, and we've been linked with him repeatedly. Again, I kind of hope that I would stick unless there's someone definitively better. You would stick with the keepers, Fothers, unless there's an upgrade. We know.
I think so. After seeing what I've seen tonight, I'm much more comfortable with Sells starting on Saturday, Miguel on the bench. And let's see what happens. Like I said earlier, Ramsdale I think would have been an upgrade. Jose Sarr, I've always rated him actually at Wolves, so maybe. But I think we've got bigger issues before 11 o'clock on Friday, haven't we? Than the goalkeeper.
We'll come on to strikers. We'll come back to it. We'll stick with the game for now and maybe filter back to that after the match. But we'll certainly discuss transfer stuff. Just before we get back to more on the match, obviously the next game now is against Wolves on Saturday. I shall be there. I shall be at the NAV listening to Fothers entertain the crowd pre-match. Get down there straight afterwards for the Oasis and gig, free entry. After we hopefully beat Wolves, which I think we will. We might touch on that a little bit at the end, but thanks to the NAV for their support as ever. What about the way we responded then, Paul, to going behind? Particularly, I'm asking you, I guess, about the wingers and the wing backs who I felt did really well. Just talk about them and the general response, if you would.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think we, obviously, save apart from that sort of, chance where we could have gone 2-0 down, where Miguel, when I say redeemed himself, but certainly showed what he can do. From that point onwards, probably for the vast majority of the half, we were, by far the better team on the front foot. I think the commentator said a couple of times Newcastle are struggling to get out their own half. And we didn't necessarily create any really clear-cut chances, but, got into lots of good areas. And you say Moreno, I thought, was really impressive. And that, just shows you what a difference that we've been talking about, having a left-footed left back who can overlap and create the space for, obviously with Sosa tonight, predominantly for him to come inside and give the defenders sort of two sides to worry about rather than just everyone cutting in all the time. That was really evident tonight. And I think Moreira, again, for someone of his age, showed really a lot of maturity. And again, he was willing to get forward. He was almost playing as a right wing. I think a lot of times sort of felt like he was on the right, and Jota was playing that number 10 role. But yeah, nothing but positives for all those guys. And like I say, I think for me, Moreno was the one that probably really sort of stood out and is going to really push for a starting place at the weekend. Both the wingers, did delivery as well. I think Sosa, that free kick that he whipped in, was really promising to see that. So, like I say, I think we've now got 4 wingers and 4 fullbacks who each of them could do a job and I'd have no reservations about substitutions and that kind of. And that's the biggest question mark, wasn't it? Is what's the depth after that starting 11? I think most people have got that starting 11 in mind with Hudson-Odoi and Elanga. But what comes after them, and tonight really showed that we've got the depth there and the ability to maintain and have game changes coming on. I think you talked about it after the Bournemouth game where they brought 4 or 5 players on and each provided a different threat, which ultimately meant them getting a point out of the game. And that's what we feel like we've got that now in those sort of situations with those guys. And tonight they proved it against a really good opposition.
Yeah, I totally agree. If there's this player from tonight who I think is most likely to start v Wolves, I think it's Moreno. I thought he added something, but equally Nico does, played well against Southampton, I thought, and again we kept a clean sheet. But if Moreno's not in the starting 11 v Wolves, and I think he will be very soon, he added a lot. Just on the wingers, Fothers, they're quite contrasting, aren't they? Silva's like some people said, was it a terrier? I think Emily might have said in the WhatsApp group. Obviously a very good player and exemplified by the goal, but Sosa's different. He seems to have the slickness, the skills, and that dead ball delivery was fantastic. There's a good balance between them in a way.
Yeah, there is, and I mean that free kick, which I think Taiwo probably should have done better with, which was literally just before half time, wasn't it? Was an unbelievable ball in, and I think you're right. And I was also impressed with Moreira. You know, he's a young lad, isn't he? And he's probably one for the future. But he didn't do a lot wrong either. But I certainly think that. Jota's got something a little bit special. I don't want to get too carried away. It was a great finish tonight, and he was busy and looked really good. Sousa just looks a little bit more polished, and I'm quite excited about seeing these guys start to drift into the starting 11 or even coming on and being able to link up with the likes of Gibbs White and Hudson-Odoi and Alanga. There's so much going forward to be excited about, isn't there?
Yeah, massively. I mean, one of the things I wrote in my notes, Paul, after 60 minutes was please don't sign loads of players this week, because I don't think we need it, really, do we?
No, I agree. I think I mentioned a few weeks back, I think it was probably after the Villarreal game when we obviously were talking about transfers. I think there's a really fine line, isn't it, between having a squad where you want to keep everybody happy and just having too many bodies. And I think we're at that point now. We're just on the right side of that, where we've got, you know, arguably 2 players for every position. And again, tonight reinforced that with the wingers. Adding too many more bodies to the mix, I think it just confuses the picture. So clearly, I think striker is somewhere where we could add. I did think before tonight, goalkeeper. I'm more relaxed if we don't get a goalkeeper now. I think if we can add a striker before Friday, I think we're done. I think, you know, I'd be super happy with what we've got. I know people are talking about, do we need anybody to sort of replace Danilo for the short term? You know, indications are that he's going to be back after Christmas. And I think we've probably got enough. Again, particularly seeing what I saw Jota do tonight in the number 10 position. If we did have a challenge in that deeper line position, that, you know, we've always got Morgan that we know can drop and play a bit deeper, and you could have Jota and Anderson who's proved that he can play there as well. So we've got plenty of options in midfield. I think a striker's the only one that we need, I think, between now and Friday. And I think I'd be loath to sort of add any more bodies other than that.
Yeah, just waiting to hear about Ryan Yates. A couple of people in text were telling me that Yates was supposed to start tonight. So we'll wait and see if that's the case and if he's out. We have been linked with, I don't know how you say it, to be honest, Eduardo Bove, the Roma midfielder. Adam Summerton, who's been on the show a few times, and obviously knows his Serie A football inside out, describes him as basically, he just read like an Italian version of Ryan Yates in terms of breaking up play, putting tackles in, not being the most polished player. But he was a player Mourinho played a lot. So it sounds like we might be in for him. So, yeah, that's one to monitor as well. And obviously the striker situation. Just one player who's gone under the radar a little bit, I suppose, for this was Anderson, who is just, he's very quietly efficient, and he has moments of being very flashy and very good. Again, I'm really impressed with him tonight.
Yeah, there were a couple of bits where I started to think maybe he was Agent Anderson, because he looked a little bit like he was going to get caught in possession and like he was wanting to get caught in possession, because he obviously is one of them. But then right at the last minute, he didn't get caught in possession, and you thought, he knew what he was doing all the time. And I thought he was great. I think he again, he's another one. If he comes in, that's absolutely fine, isn't it? And that's what we've probably not had for the last 2 years in the Premier League, isn't it? We've had 11 players that are probably good enough to just keep us up in 17th or whatever. But what we haven't had is options to come off the bench, or, you know, if Anderson comes in, that means there's going to be good players that are in the starting, although he started at Southampton, didn't he? But, you know, it's just that strength in depth and that strength of squad that we're now getting. And like Paul says, it's not too big that the players start to get upset because they're not getting in, and you've got to keep them all happy. There's so much to be positive about right now. And I know, you know, you look at, we've only played Bournemouth and Southampton, who are probably going to be in the bottom half of the league. But tonight, don't underestimate how good that Newcastle side was tonight. And we could make those changes tonight by bringing quality on from the bench. And unfortunately, we just didn't quite get over the line tonight. And I mean, if we'd won that penalty shootout tonight, that would have been the best performance for me, probably of anything since we got promoted, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think we were very good. I think we've probably just tired a little bit last 20 minutes. A lot of these lads haven't played 90 minutes. Moreira and other lads ran themselves into the ground. Obviously, we brought quality off the bench, but it didn't quite click for a couple. But yeah, massively encouraged. Just like the other thing on midfield, Paul, I suppose give a mention for Dominguez. Do you think he's had a couple of rough games off the bench before tonight? And how do you think he did tonight?
Yeah, I think again he came on in difficult circumstances against Southampton, and just I think he did his job. He didn't, I think that he was up against that young lad, wasn't I? forget his name. Sibley, was it, the number 33?
Who or something? I think we'll know it by the end of this season. But
yeah, he was really impressive and gave Dominguez a bit of a not a torrid time, but made him work really hard on Saturday. And yeah, tonight he was solid. He was again playing in that sort of slightly deeper line role, wasn't he? And same with Anderson. Again, I think coming back to the and I count Dominguez in this, count Anderson in this, and tonight Jota Silva. After what I've seen tonight, is that we've got a number of players who can play in effectively 2 or 3 players in one. Who can play in different positions. So that versatility means that again we don't have to have so many bodies in this in the squad, because you've got Anderson can do a job at 6, 8, 10 wide. Same with Dominguez. He's played wide. He's done a job last season in particular. He can play in that deeper line role. He can play in the 8 role. It looks like Jota Silva can play anywhere across that sort of front line. So with that versatility, I think it means that we don't necessarily have to add bodies. We've got players who can play in multiple different positions, which is a really, really, great asset to have within the squad. Which means you can keep the personnel to a limited number, but still have the options within the players that you've got. So yeah, I thought Dominguez, come back to your original question, did what was asked of him. Was relatively unspectacular, but I don't think he did anything wrong either.
No, I mean quite a few people in the comments saying player X should start on Saturday, player Y should start on Saturday. I don't really subscribe to that necessarily, because I think we were so good against Southampton. I don't think there's the need to change the starting 11 particularly. No. I think it's more like, yes, we've got good bench options now. We've got a proper squad, hopefully, that can get us to where we want to be in this Premier League season, into that mid-table comfort, and probably just need the striker that we've all been discussing and probably will discuss now, just before that, 640 people watching, which is fantastic, after a defeat where we're all disappointed, but hopefully positive. So do us a favour and hit like on the video. As I always say, it does make a really big difference. And just before we talk about strikers as well, it'd be great if people could help out JJ at Heavy Metal Football. As you might have seen on Saturday, he was laid off from his job, and he's trying to make a positive out of a negative. I'll read out the intro. This is what the ad read that he wrote this for me, by the way. Heavy Metal Football have their begging bowl out, as the person who runs it has unfortunately been made redundant from their job. So therefore, he needs some help selling some shirts. They're turning a negative into positive by giving you a 20% off your order with the code redundant, all in capitals, at heavymetalfootball.co.uk. So yeah, I know after Saturday, quite a lot of people bought them because JJ messaged me, which is fantastic if you can support a fellow Forest fan in his own business endeavours, like me. Thank you. Right, Fothers, strikers. Santiago Jimenez today was the latest one to fall by the wayside. Early in the morning, it was reported that a Forest delegation, potentially including Evangelos Marinakis, I'm not sure, was flying out to Rotterdam, not to see the sights, but to try and persuade the guy to sign for us. By mid-afternoon, Fabrizio Romano's tweeting he's dead in the water, and I feel like that's got to be it now. What's just your general thoughts on this Jimenez deal? Just move on and forget him, I take it.
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know why it's broken down. I'm guessing I've not seen any news today, but I'm guessing we don't know why it's broken down, but it just has. And
well, he says he doesn't want to come. That's the main reason.
Well, if he doesn't want to come, then yeah, you need to move on, don't you? I'm gutted. And again, this is probably going to get some criticism, but I'm gutted Nketiah wasn't sorted. I think he's a quality player. I think he's different to anything we've got. And I would have loved to have seen him in the Garibaldi. So I'm disappointed that he's not coming. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know where we go from here. I think everybody, every single Forest fan wants a striker, don't they? And can we go into another 36 games left with Woody and Taiwo? I don't think so, but I don't know where it comes from. Are there any more rumours? Give us some more rumours, Matt. What are you hearing?
we've got a couple. There was the John Percy reporting that we were in for an Egyptian striker who plays for Frankfurt. We'll come on to him in one sec. Just on Jimenez, Paul, it's kind of like either the players' camp has given us indications that he wanted to sign and he's changed his mind, or maybe have we just convinced ourselves the power of Forest and a Marinakis delegation can convince the lad. But either way, it's not worked out. It's pretty frustrating. Are you fed up of the whole situation, or how are you feeling about this striker? I say mess. Yeah. I don't know how much of a mess it is, but yeah,
it's frustrating. But I mean, I can see a lot of the comments talking about Taiwo needs to go somewhere else or whatever. He's not match fit yet. You can see that. I thought what he did do tonight was he was a nuisance, and one of the things that I've noticed from the games that I've been to this season where Wood started up front and played the majority of minutes is we've got this goal kick routine where Murillo passes it to Sells and Sells plays it long, and probably 90% of the time we've lost the ball. Whereas tonight, whenever we played that long ball from the keeper, even if Taiwo wasn't winning the ball, he was giving defenders something to think about, and people were picking up scraps and we were retaining possession much better. So I understand and get people's frustrations that Taiwo isn't quite at the races yet, but his physical presence creates a problem for defenders. Even if he's not on it himself, he occupies people's spaces and he causes problems. So I think I'm a Taiwo lover, and I know some people won't be. I think he has it in him to play 20 games a season. He definitely, he did it for Frankfurt before he signed for us. Sorry, not Frankfurt, Union Berlin before he signed for us. And the German league is probably the most physically comparable to the Premier League, I would say, in Europe. So he's got it in him to play a full season. And I just hope he can. I think we don't necessarily need to rush into a panic buy this window. I know you guys talked about this the other day. I think Emily got some tap for being pessimistic about saying that we shouldn't just sign anybody. But I think we reassess the situation. If we can't get somebody meaningful through the door in the next few days, we reassess the situation in January. There was a tweet I saw the other day about the number of January signings. You've hit it on, Chris Wood being one example for us. But teams who signed strikers in January have gone on to be impactful. So Alvarez was another one at Man City. I can't remember the others. But all is not lost if we don't sign a striker this week. And I'd rather us not panic buy somebody who is unproven and a risk for 20, 30 million than just stick with what we've got. I guess the ideal scenario would be we loan somebody where we, zero risk, even if it's someone with a checkered history injury wise. Between the three of them, we'd hopefully get a start. I mean, I know you talked on here about Callum Wilson. Just to think about Newcastle tonight, I think he's not quite fit at the minute, and there's no way they would let him go, I don't think. But someone of that calibre who's got Premier League experience, scores goals at this level, and even if they're 30 plus, if it's a loan and a short-term fix that could see us through to January when we can reassess, I'd be more in favour of that than throwing a load of money on somebody that's unproven.
I don't mind signing a lone striker. Go on, Fothers, please.
I was just going to say there is an argument that actually we don't play to Chris Wood's strengths, isn't there? I mean, there was an incident at home to Bournemouth in the first half where we'd got it and we got a chance to put the ball in the box. And let's be honest, we've got one of the best headers of the ball in the Premier League in Chris Wood, because he doesn't miss many with his head. And we decided just to pass it around 5-yard little passes and it goes out for a goal kick. So maybe if we just put a few more balls in the box, like Luton did. Okay, it didn't work out for Luton. But the reason Luton's striker scored what he did last year is because they were putting balls into the box and playing to his strengths. So maybe a lot of positive comments in the comments about the fact that we have got two strikers and it could be worse. But maybe just adapt the way we play when we've got Woody in or when Taiwo's starting.
Yeah, I don't mind a lone striker in the right circumstances. Origi was kind of the wrong circumstance because he was on 100 and X grand a week to not do anything for us. If we can get a lone player who's, maybe a bit younger and a bit hungrier, and maybe they're not quite the final solution for what we need in terms of our development long term, but they can come in for 6 months and then we can reassess, then I don't mind that if they're not going to, bung us up FFP wise. Just going back to what Paul was saying, I think he was referencing my tweet without realising it about January striker deals in the last few windows. This is the last three. Julian Alvarez was signed in January. Cody Gakpo, Jean-Philippe Mateta, John Duran, Mateus Cunha, Chris Wood. You know, I think the point I was making was you can sign good strikers in January. They are out there. It's not a dead window. You maybe have to box a little bit clever, but I don't remember Liverpool or City or anyone paying over the odds for any of these players. I think Cunha was the only one who cost a huge fee. I think it was something like 40 odd million. I don't know what Alvarez cost, but it was good money or good value. So I think it can be done. I just like Paul and probably everyone, don't go out and buy, you know, Chubrackpom springs to mind. I checked his goal record the other day, and it wasn't massively encouraging after that fantastic burst he had at the start of last season. So yeah, let's be cool. Let's not panic in these last 2 days of the window. I think tonight shows there's a lot to like. Just on the other players linked, Brian Brobby was one who sounds really good. Like a lot of these players sound really good, but they're really hard to get to, and he would cost a lot of money, I guess. It doesn't sound like he can be convinced. The other one, for those you're asking about players, Eintracht Frankfurt striker, this is from John Percy. Omar Mamouche, 25, has emerged as a serious target for Forest. It says they're in advanced negotiations with Eintracht over a potential deal. 17 goals last season in all competitions, including 4 in Europe. And I think, interestingly, a couple of people were saying to me he is different to Taiwo and Chris Wood in terms of his movement and stuff like that. I think that's why I liked Nketiah. Is that a factor that you would want to see as well, Fothers, ideally, someone who offers a different dimension to the attack?
Yeah, 100%. We know what Chris Wood brings us. We know what Taiwo can do if he stays fit. We need something a little bit different. There's a reason strikers are the hardest players to sign in football, isn't there? And yes, if we can land somebody who's got 17 goals in for Eintracht Frankfurt and 4 in Europe, then he sounds like he's good pedigree. And I don't think, Paul, I don't know whether you'll agree with this, but I don't think that falls into a panic buy, does it? And when you look at, certainly in the last 3 or 4 months with the signings that we've made, there seems to be much more structure to who we're bringing in. And I'm not really concerned that Friday is going to be manic. I think there might still be 2 or 3, but I don't think it's going to be what it's been for the last sort of 2 or 3 years. So, somebody who scored 17 goals for Eintracht Frankfurt in Bundesliga last year and 4 in Europe, you bring it on. Let's have a look at him.
Yeah, and good age as well, Paul. 25 years old. I think Fothers makes a good point. Anything else you want to add before we move on?
No, not really. I'm sure this guy, did he play in AFCON last year?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. AFCON would absolutely rinse our squad next year.
No, I'm not. Was thinking. I guess that's more sort of a test of you can look at what's he like on the international stage if he's got any pedigree there. But look, I suppose my reservation is that the club clearly had one of 2 targets in mind. Had Nketiah and had Jimenez. They were the top 2 targets, and if we don't manage to land your first and second choice, you're then shopping in a window where you ideally didn't want to shop in the first place, unless it's perhaps a loan. So I just be cautious, I would say, about, I said before, about spending a lot of money on someone that wasn't your first or second choice. So I'm sure I've got faith in the recruitment team, particularly given what they've done in the last few months. So we should back them. But yeah, I just hope we don't go silly in the last 24 hours or so, which I don't think we will. But there's always that sort of nervousness of, given what's happened in the last couple of years, isn't it? That Marinakis gets his checkbook out and gets a bit signature happy, shall we say? But let's see. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt.
Well, yeah, I think you can see why people think that we've got that reputation. But this window, I think, has been really good, like really positive, really smart, incisive business so far. And then January was good. If we think back, like Sells solved the problem, Reina solved the problem. And then last summer was sort of a step in the right direction. And then it's previously that I think we accrued that reputation. But yeah, I like what I see. I'm just hoping we don't go crazy in these last few days and make. I mean, Dan says here a statement signing. My definition of a statement signing and previous definitions of a statement signing are different. If you're thinking Jesse Lingard's a statement signing and Divock Origi's a statement signing, I don't necessarily think that way. And I hope the club don't, and they see like actually Elliot Anderson and Nikola Milenkovic are statement signings because they do what we need. Thank you very much, by the way, to James Dillon for signing up as a member. Very kind, James. Lots of people have signed up recently and really appreciate that. And while I'm thinking about it, please do consider buying live show tickets next Thursday, 7 p.m. at the NAV. I think the link is in the description. If it's not, then I shall drop it in straight after this. But Lewis is on the panel with a few of the podcast regulars. Should be a good evening. We'll reflect fully on the transfer window and the Wolves game, and then look ahead to what's to come. Just before we begin to wind down, I made a terrible mistake, Fothers, by barely talking or not even addressing the quality of our goal in terms of the finish. Can't really do a whole 41-minute post-match show and not talk about how good it was. So just talk us through that from Jota.
Yeah, it was. It was stunning, wasn't it? I mean, it was it's a long throw-in, and it's sort of fallen loose, really, hasn't it? But boy, did he hit it? And don't they look better goals like that when they hit the post or the bar? I think that one it was like right in the corner, wasn't it? And don't they look great when it rattles into the bar and then and Pope never moved, did it? I mean, Pope's a goalkeeper. We'd take him, wouldn't we? Actually, if he became available, but. Let's not talk about goalkeepers again, but yeah, what a strike and his face when he scored it as well. He just looked like he really enjoyed that, didn't he? And he ran towards Alanga, and you can see that there's a little bit of camaraderie there, isn't there? Alanga was smiling back at him, and you just, I don't know, you just felt the togetherness, which we really need to keep. And again, going back to what Paul said earlier, just the fact that we've got that right balance and that right number in the squad now where we can keep everybody happy and they can all want each other to do really well. But yeah, what a strike. Brilliant.
Yeah, fantastic. Boynesy in the comments says, I'll use a different word, but it's nice to see someone who just smashes the ball and doesn't try and stroke it into the corner and bend it in, all that stuff. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with just putting your boot through it, certainly. Any final thoughts, Paul, before we wind down? Anything you want to add on the game or transfers or anything?
I'll just add to the point that Father's made there, really, about togetherness. I think it was during the penalty shootout. I think I can't remember if it was the first or second penalty went in. The camera panned around to, you had Morgan, you had Aina, you had Murillo, obviously none of which were involved tonight, but they were all there. Just the smiles on their faces. I think it was might have been Milenkovic's penalty. I can't remember. Someone's penalty went in. And the other thing I'd point out was just the desire that everyone showed tonight. There's one, I think we talked about Sosa's ball in that he whipped in just before half time. And there was about a minute or so after that where they had a free kick just on the halfway line and they played it short, and he chased down and hounded down and blocked, and we forced a throw in their third from a free kick in our half, mainly due to to Sosa chasing it down, then Taiwo chasing it down. So just that whole desire that everyone showed tonight really sort of, as I said before, gave me a mixture of huge amount of pride and excitement about what's to come from this squad. Forget the penalties, it happens. But all in all, every Forest fan should go to bed tonight feeling really enthused about what they've seen. I know I certainly will.
Yeah, me too. This is like literally the worst question of the night. Having to scroll up through 300 comments going on the illusion and agree with one half, pick your side, I would say, because that's been what everyone's been talking about. It's not the worst question, you know what I mean? It's like the most hand grenade question of the night. So we've discussed Taiwo, and we'll probably discuss him a few more times. Fothers, any final words, and then I'll wrap things up.
Yeah, I think the only thing for me, I think there was a comment tonight that said that Nuno's never been past the fourth round of the cup, and I think when the team selection was made, you sort of looked at it and then you saw how strong Newcastle were, and you can sort of see why that would be the case. So I think from my perspective earlier on this evening, I was a little bit disappointed that we perhaps didn't pick a few more players that we thought 3 hours ago were our best players and would get us through, because everybody loves a cup run, don't they? When you think back to, they showed before the game the wins at Wembley and the trips we used to have to Wembley. We all want to do that again. But I think what it highlighted for me was just how important the Premier League is to us now, and actually the League Cup, Carabao Cup's nice, but it's not the be all and end all, is it? And actually what we're seeing now week in, week out in the Premier League is where we want to be.
Saving that cup run for the FA Cup for us. When we get to Christmas and we're comfortably in the mid-table, then we can attack the FA Cup. That's what the plan is. I think, just come back to your point, seeing Bruno Guimaraes fist pumper winning a throw-in after 15 minutes showed you how much it meant to them. And that, again, that reinforces the fact that how well we did tonight with that scheme against, they really wanted to win tonight. It was a big game for them. They put a huge onus on this game, and not saying that we didn't, but for the guys that went out there having the collective minutes that our team had played together compared to theirs must have been minuscule. And the fact that we matched them stride for stride for 90 minutes. All right, they came on strong in the last maybe 10, 15, we faded, but that is a huge testament to those boys that came in for their first and second games tonight, to match the team that had played together 100%. A lot. And who wanted it, clearly wanted it. It wasn't, they weren't just having a kick about, they really wanted it. And we really gave them a good game. And that should be a massive plus and a massive step forward, and something we can build on for sure.
Absolutely. When you look at the likes of Almiron, Isak, Bruno, Barnes, Joe Linton, they went for it, didn't they? They were desperate to win that tonight, and we were one penalty kick away from putting them out, and we need to be proud of that. And go into Saturday now against a team who lost 6-2 at the weekend, and let's take the game to Wolves and let's get back in those European places so Greg can start booking his trips.
Yeah, that's where he is tonight. He's scouting every potential Europa Conference League final in Europe. Any fringe nation on the outer edges of Europe, like Azerbaijan, who seems to get these games. Greg Mitchell is on his way. Don't worry. Wolves fans did message me, my mates, before the game and said Nuno never takes the Carabao Cup seriously in team selection. But I think it's a bit different. They were saying, they played, this kid I've never heard of. At least tonight shows, as the chaps have been saying, we've got the depth. Yes, we made 11 changes, but it's super encouraging that those 11 changes all have something to offer for the football club in the long term, hopefully. Quick shout out, chap texted, does anyone do that anymore? Tweeted, if that's even the right word, to say it is the first games for Henry, Isaac and Owen, who were on the way to City Ground tonight. So shout out to those three lads. Hope you enjoyed it still, even in defeat. That might be a bit of character building for you lads as well. It's not always brilliant. We don't always win penalty shootouts, but we have done for how long, Paul, were you saying?
I think that's the first time we've lost a penalty shootout in a major competition ever. So in either FA Cup, League Cup or playoffs. I remember I went to a county cup game in about 1988-89. We lost against Notts County on penalties at Meadow Lane. But apart from that, I can't remember us losing a penalty shootout. But look, again, at least tonight was a game where we went out against a top class team. And if that team had played as well as they did against a lower league opposition, someone could have said, "Oh, it's only Derby." But the fact that we did against Newcastle was a real testament to the way the guys played tonight. And I thought, like I said, we should all be really positive about what we saw.
Yeah, I'll take going out like that than going out to Barrow on penalties after drawing 0-0. We're in a good place. We shall be back tomorrow, I think about 10 a.m. with Pete and Simon Bristow, also known as Our Glorious Banners on Twitter. We'll expand on the transfer chat, see what's happening, and then look ahead. We'll do our Wolves preview, discuss our lineups for that, which I think are going to be interesting now. Simon messaged me saying I'm going to be really boring and it will just be an unchanged team. It'll be interesting. That was before the match, to see if he still thinks that after how well we did tonight. So we'll discuss that. The plan for Friday is we'll do like a phone-in show at 6 p.m. with myself and Greg. And then at 9 p.m, Lewis is going to join me for 2 hours, which is great. He wants to do it. So we'll have Lewis on board for 2 hours, and then a cast of guests between 9 and 10. Fothers is one of them. Pete, Emily, Temps is doing it as well, and Mikey. And then post-match Saturday, Paul, you'll be back for that, which is great. And I'll find a second guest, and it's all very exciting heading into the international break. So we had about 750 people with us at one point. I've talked 100 of them away in the last couple of minutes by the look of it, but that's okay. Good to have everyone with us. Yeah, exactly. Paul, thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. Yeah.
And we'll
Cheers,
see you
guys.
again on Saturday. And
Indeed.
Fothers, thank you very much.
No, it's been a pleasure, Matt, and I look forward to Friday night talking about all these new signings that we're going to make in that last hour and a half or whatever it's going to be.
It's going to be, well, I say it's going to be mad. Hopefully it's not going to be mad, but hopefully we'll see lots of you with us for that. Hopefully everyone enjoyed this. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the game, even in defeat. If we don't see you tomorrow, then we shall see you soon.